President Biden, as you know, is overseas meeting with world leaders discussing ways to tackle global warming. It was the main topic of the G20 and at the COP26 in Scotland. And Washington Post senior editor Mark Fisher is joining us now with more. Mark, thanks for being with us. The big headline today, President Biden announcing new rules targeting methane emissions with regard to oil and gas drilling. That seems substantial here. Can you tell us how that's going to work?
Well, this is one of a number of climate-related measures that the president has been pushing both at the climate conference in Scotland and previously at the G20 meeting of the group of nations, industrialized nations. And this is all part of an effort by Biden to persuade the rest of the world, and especially his European partners, that the United States is serious about confronting climate issues, which is the message that was not well received in Europe when Donald Trump, as president, made the opposite argument that this was not going to be the primary focus for the United States government. That led to a lot of mistrust in Europe, and so Biden is trying to turn that around by limiting methane, by also pushing back against government funding of coal-fired power plants. That's something that the Europeans are very keen on, although they have more of a problem in that regard than the United States does.
For anybody paying any degree of attention here, this feels like a high-stakes situation. I mean, it doesn't get any more dire than this here, with consequences to limit the rise of 1.5 degrees Celsius here. Do you get a sense of optimism at this period, or is it all skepticism all the time in your view?
Well, it's really a mix. I think there are a lot of people, certainly the activists, certainly those who are pressing their European governments for progress on this front, who believe that there is hope and that there are policies that can be put into effect that would have a real impact on limiting climate change. However, obviously, after years, if not decades, of people telling us that this is the last moment, this is the last chance, when that message is heard over and over again, there is a certain weariness that results where a lot of people say, well, what is the real edge, and are we at it, and have we passed it, and is it hopeless? So you see in public attitudes toward climate change a real frustration over that, and so the Biden administration is trying to say, hey, there are concrete things we can do here. We're going to try to do that with our partners, in large part to try to reestablish trust in the United States and confidence that the United States will be both a reliable partner and a leader on the world stage.
You use partner there twice here. This can't be done by any one nation alone. And to that end, the president had some very harsh words for the nations of China and Russia, who were no-shows, but obviously big polluters on the world stage. How could they be held to account to get us to where we need to be as a world?
That is really the big question, and you see in our two successive American administrations very different attitudes, very different approaches to that. Trump contending that the only way you could get the Chinese to the table was to take on a much more adversarial approach. Biden now saying that we've got to get them to cooperate, and so some form of carrot and stick kind of approach is what his folks favor. We've seen that rocking back and forth between administrations over the last several decades in the United States as we try to figure out what's the best way to pressure China to conform with the world's expectations. As you say, the climate is something that cannot be handled by any one country or any one set of countries. It's either everyone is in or it's not going to work. And the Chinese, although they sometimes pay lip service to climate issues, their policies have generally shown that they don't have a major priority in that.
All right. You can read more about it at the Washington Post senior editor Mark Fisher. Thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.